Historically speaking, the kitchen has always been a safe space for women to converse. A place to discuss complex, embarrassing, and shameful topics. Expanding on this age-old generational practice, I want to create a space for the next generation to learn from our stories. I am Jessica Nichole, and this is Eat Like a Lady. Today I'm going to be chatting with Arielle Saturne, Kaila Mangrum, and Christina Elmore Duke. And today we're going to be preparing Piña Colada Smoothies, Strawberry Preserve Parfaits, and a delicious brownie hummus. The focus for this episode is reproductive health. Who wants to take the granola? Arielle, thank you so much for volunteering. Super simple, a little bit of moisture to your granola so when it bakes it'll come out nice and crunchy. So I know we all have our own health journey that we've been going on. For me personally, I noticed I was having like a lot of discomfort in my lower back. Ended up going in for an ultrasound and my doctor called me maybe 2 days later. I was teaching and she called me and said, "You have the biggest fibroid I've ever seen in my life." Called my mom on the phone and she's like, "You're gonna be fine, make an appointment with your gynecologist." I did, I go in. Found out I had a fibroid about the size of a baby's head.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, honestly, like in my mind, I was like, do I have cancer? Like,
Yeah,
what is it?
scary.
Why are you freaking out right now?
Right.
And then she kept going, "It's not my field of expertise, so I can't tell you anything else."
Great.
And the only question I was able to ask was, "Can I have a baby?" And she was like, "I can't answer that question for you." Scheduled me for surgery maybe 2 weeks later.
Like
And
so fast, like,
yeah, super fast, because I was in so much pain. I was in so much pain. So I went in, had the surgery, and I was like, I'm never gonna do this again. Like, this is the worst experience of my life. There was no information that I could find online to help me heal after the surgery. And so from that point forward, anytime I can talk to someone about what I went through, I'm like, this is our chance to learn.
Yes.
So your smoothie recipe, actually, I remember when you and I were talking, so we're gonna add maca and ashwagandha because they're really great for your immune system and balancing out your hormones.
I was like, just what is the diet? What's the, like, 'cause I also have fibroids. So I was like, so what did you eat? What are you eating? How are you?
So you had fibroids before your first pregnancy?
Yeah, I knew I had them and I was nervous about getting pregnant and like, would they be a problem? Would they not
that was
be?
a huge concern for me.
And my mom had them and had a myomectomy. Yeah. And then later, just a couple years ago, a hysterectomy. So like, I knew that because they say they can grow, they can shrink, or they can stay the same. And so I think mine shrunk the first time. The second time around, it looks like they've grown a bit, but they're still small-ish. I'm just putting a whole bunch of pineapple in here. Leave me in the way that I should go.
I don't have fibroids, but I wasn't feeling right. Like my calf was hurting and I didn't think anything of it. I just thought maybe I did something crazy at the gym. It was getting worse. Like by the third day, my calf was just hurting, like extreme pain, and it was swollen. And I was like, this is weird. I knew it wasn't a muscle pain because I played sports and it's like, that's weird. When you sit down, normally the pain will go away.
Yeah.
But every time I would sit down, it would get worse. Stand up, it would get worse. The only thing that would give me relief was laying down. So I go to the emergency room and they tell me, you have blood clots in your leg. And they sent me home.
They sent you home with blood. They say you have blood clots.
They
We
said I
see
have blood
them. We know
clots.
that. Go home.
Here they are. Here, they said, here, take these blood thinners and live your normal life. I said, my normal life? I said, so I can work out tomorrow, I can do all these things, I can go to school, and they're like, yeah, here you go. Gave me a bottle of blood thinners. So I end up back at the emergency room. I have blood clots all over my lungs. I had bilateral pulmonary embolism. They couldn't believe I walked in.
So, and then they never checked the rest of your body.
So they just saw
the
blood
pain
clots
that
in your
you,
legs
Yeah.
and said, go live your life.
Yeah, and how that relates to reproductive health is they told me it's from your birth control, the injections. And they were like, yeah, so that's our only explanation for it. And so I was living with those,
Oh my
and
God.
was in the hospital for like 5 days. And that actually progressed to another condition because I got scar tissue in my lungs after that. So I have like pulmonary hypertension. So the scar tissue is building up in there from the blood clots, all from birth control. And you know, they start telling us as women that we should take birth control when we're like 14 years old, you know, regulate your hormones.
Did they talk about side effects? Have you ever even heard of this side effect as a result? You know what I mean?
No, I never thought that would be what happened. No.
I just read the back of the birth control, the hormonal pills for the first time, maybe like last year.
And did you see that blood clots were?
Blood clots and stroke, and they even have this little chart on there based on your age, and then it tells you how high your chances are of getting it the older you get. But no doctor ever told it to me.
I've never heard of that.
And those the fine print's like this big.
Super
when you
small.
open
Yeah.
it, it's like,
We can do
oh, you got it to
this.
work.
Let's see. Okay, it's gonna be loud.
We got it to work. Go for it. It's not too bad.
Okay.
All right. So Arielle, you're a doula now, correct?
I am. I like to say that I'm on the welcoming team. So a doula for Christina might look different for a doula for you. What she may have needed during her pregnancy might look different from what you need. My niece kind of brought me here. That's why I call myself the Auntie Doula. I watched her come into the world, and her birth was at home in the water. She was actually born in the coal. I don't know if you know what that means.
She was
I don't.
still.
Yeah. So, the water never broke, right? So when you're born in the call, it's like a very spiritual meaning because you're halfway born, halfway unborn. And honestly, if the hospital didn't induce a lot, there probably would be so many more births that
Oh, that
happen
makes
in
sense.
the call.
Yeah.
They skew the data, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was always looking at birth videos for years, and I'm like, look at this. Did you know that the body
just out
could
of
do
curiosity.
this? Pure curiosity.
Yeah. If
My
you're watching
partner-
birth videos,
Right?
we'll find
For sure.
maybe that's what you should be doing.
All right, I'm sorry. Talk more about the advocacy piece.
Black women are 3 times as likely as white women to die during childbirth in the hospital. I think it's important for Black women in particular to be able to have someone to say, okay, this is what's happening. Let me make sure you have informed consent. Let me make sure you know what's happening. Let me ask why this is happening. Let me confirm that this is something that you would like.
Yeah.
Okay, so, you know, when we were building your birth plan, this is what you said you wanted. Is that still what you want? Okay, she still wants that. That's okay. You know, somebody has to be there to protect you. I'm just here to remind you to trust yourself because you're the only person outside of this baby that lives in your body that knows if something's wrong.
Yeah.
If you're telling me something's wrong, then I'm going to be like, something's wrong.
I believe you.
We're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
When people aren't believing your pain or even you're not sure, maybe I am exaggerating. You know, you start questioning yourself.
And you have no point of reference either. Like, especially after, I mean, every birth, but especially if it's your first time, or if it's your first time spending time in a hospital, and I don't know, when they're asking like, what on the scale of 1 to 10 is your pain? I don't know, I've never experienced an 8 before. Is this 8 or is
like,
it not? Is it 7.5? I know that it hurts.
Yeah, I can tell you that much.
Yeah, and I've never experienced this feeling. I remember in labor was the first time I was like, you know, as a person who'd wanted to have kids my whole life, I knew that labor was going to be painful.
Yeah.
But I had no understanding of that sensation. Because I'd be like, it's like cramps, but more. Like this. Some people, it's the worst pain you ever felt in your life. But I just had no reference point. So when it happened, I remember consciously the first really deep contraction being like, oh, I was in pain. I was like, this is what it is. It's true. I've never felt this before. And I had no way to describe it before. And I probably couldn't even describe it now. But it's all new. And so to talk to my doctor or midwife or whoever about like what's going on, I might not even have the language for it.
Yeah.
That
Because
part.
I've not experienced this.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's important to have a doula that's going to teach you.
Yeah.
It's different for every birthing person.
Yeah.
It's not even going to be the same when you think about what resources some people may have that others don't. And it's so funny, my partner and I always have this conversation. She's like, you need to figure out the language to describe what it is that you do. And I'm like, help.
So for the next generation of young Black women, what piece of advice would you give them in regards to advocating for themselves when they go to the doctor?
There's a lot of us that are misdiagnosed for a long time for reasons that are beyond me. People just don't want to listen.
Yeah.
How many years did it take for both of you to get diagnosed with your fibroids?
I was deep in my 20s.
Yeah. And my doctor said he imagined mine had been there for quite some time for it to be as big as it was. I just had very little information and knowledge about cycles, how they were supposed to work. I thought what I was going through was normal. I had no idea.
No context,
whatsoever.
right?
I thought it was normal to have to wear, back in my teens and 20s, to have to wear a pad and a tampon at the same time. I thought that I was like, doesn't everyone have to wear fill the back up because within 30 minutes you filled up the tampon?
You just thought everybody was doing it.
You're like, this is good.
And I'm sitting in classrooms wearing sweatshirts around my waist because I'm scared I'm gonna soil a seat with blood. I thought that was just how periods work. And if we empowered teenagers and young adults to know about their actual body and the cycle and what's happening, and to learn about fibroids and the possibility of them and how they grow, and how much further along would I have been? How much easier would it have been? How much less fear would I have had? I wish we could learn in school more. But I thought I got it.
Yeah.
A period comes once a month. You wear the tampon
something,
in the bed.
I got it all figured out.
And I thought that what I learned in school was enough. It turns out I didn't know anything.
Nothing.
Just nothing.
Nothing.
And my mom, for as much as she was willing to share, because I have a mom who's open and willing to talk about it, I don't think she knew as much as she would like to know.
Same.
But I didn't learn when I was young to advocate for myself. I was an athlete, so it was you only go if you're you're on your way out, pretty much. So when I had to learn how to advocate for myself, I was in my 30s already, and I would say my advice to the next generation would be to always take someone with you if you can.
That's great advice.
To take notes, and
literally take
literally
notes.
take
Okay.
notes.
Literal notes,
yeah,
right.
and come, ask questions as much as you can, but if you have an opportunity to record it, if you ask if that's okay, so that you can reflect on it later, because I find that a lot of times when you get into these situations, when you're in the doctor or the hospital, it's very overwhelming. It can be.
Yeah.
And you may have all these things that you were thinking of that you wanted to ask or talk about, and then once you get in there, you can be scared, or it may be intimidating, or maybe the doctor doesn't have that bedside manner, like you said earlier. So that would be my advice.
That's great advice. Yeah. Also very delicious. Right.
It's fire. Well, thank you, ladies, for joining me. Thank you for your vulnerability and for helping me hold this space for all of us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Sorry that you're not. Sorry